Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining this session. I know COABE is just getting started, so I hope everyone is feeling the energy and the excitement of bringing the field together for this really impactful event. This session is titled Planning and Implementing Change Projects for Adult Educators, the Impact of the LEAD Institute. I'd like to start by introducing myself. My name is Hannah Schlosser, and I am a Senior Technical Assistance Consultant at the American Institutes for Research, or AIR, and I am the Project Director of the LEAD Institute. As the Project Director, in addition to overseeing the project, I have also had the opportunity to facilitate several cohorts of this training opportunity. And every time I facilitate a cohort, I learn something about leadership, about strategies for better serving adult learners in a variety of different contexts, and really about myself. I have met so many adult education practitioners in all different positions who are committed to advancing their own skills in order to better serve their learners and their programs and their communities. I'm really excited to welcome a couple of those leaders, Marilyn and Megan, and they'll be here later to talk about their experiences in the LEAD Institute. As I advance to the agenda, I'm just going to take a moment to check to see if there's any action in the Whova app. Everyone is attending this session virtually, and I will be asking you to participate via some polls and some chat. So if you have the polls and the chat available, this would be a great time to make sure you know how to access those. And again, I'm just going to check them to make sure that I have access as well. All right, so this is our agenda for the session. We're going to start with a couple of polls here, as I mentioned, to get a sense of who's in our virtual room, and then we'll jump into an overview of the LEAD Institute. And then, as I mentioned, I'm welcoming two former participants of the LEAD Institute to share about their experiences participating in this training opportunity. So again, I'm going to ask everyone to take a look at the polls in the Whova app. And you're going to look at poll number 1, who's in the room. And I'd like to invite you to complete the poll so we can get a sense of who is in attendance with us today. If you navigate to that poll section, pull up poll number 1 to answer the question. If you're not sure where that is, or maybe you answered before the session today and you're not able to answer again, please also feel free to introduce yourself in the chat as well. We would love to hear from you. So I'll just give you a moment to go ahead and navigate to those polls and see if you can add your answer to this question and or put your answer in the chat. I'm seeing 21 responses to this question already, which is wonderful. I'm also going to be the first to write in the chat so that you all can see where to type your answers there as well. Okay, and again, you're answering question 1, who is in the room? Currently, it looks like we have a couple of state directors and state staff in the room, some local program administrators, a couple of instructors, some professional development providers, and some of you who wrote other. If you wrote other, please feel free to add what your position is in the chat as well. And as you're doing that, I'm also going to invite you to participate in the second poll, which is about effective leaders and what skills or characteristics they demonstrate. So the question for the second poll is, effective leaders demonstrate what skills or characteristics? And to answer this question, I want you to picture an effective leader in your mind. This could be an adult education leader or a leader from some other aspect of your life. And then go ahead and add a couple of words or phrases to answer the question. I want to give you a heads up. I'm not sure the app will let you input multiple answers. And I think the characters is limited. So So if you've already put an answer in, or if you want to add additional answers, again, please feel free to add additional thoughts in the chat to answer this particular question. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a moment to answer this poll as well. In the poll or in the chat, effective leaders demonstrate what skills or characteristics? So you're answering poll 1 and 2 if you're joining us a little bit late today. I'm able to see some of the answers that are coming through in poll 2. I'm seeing empathy is the answer that the most of you have written empathy so far. And I'll be able to share that with you in just a moment. Communication, listening, trust. There's empathy again. Yeah, these are all really good ideas. I'm going to share the results, which may prevent you from being able to add additional thoughts. But let's see what the results say. So far I'm seeing, again, I see motivate, compassion, confidence, dependability, resilience, communicator, patience. These are fantastic answers. Listening is coming through as one of the main words that you all have suggested as a skill or characteristic of a leader. Wow, thank you for sharing these. If you haven't had a chance to share yet, again, I welcome you to answer the poll if you haven't had a chance, or you can go ahead and add your thoughts in the chat as well. That's another good place to contribute your ideas to this session. But again, what I'm seeing here is a lot of words related to trust and communication. And the LEAD Institute really takes the time to highlight these skills among others. As adult educators, we know the value of continuous learning. And this is really true for leaders as well. We all have skills and characteristics that make us strong leaders. Those could be things that come to us more naturally, or they could be things that we've practiced in our work or personal settings for years. But we also know that there are things that don't come naturally to us, or that we haven't had a chance to practice in our lives that would ultimately help us to be better leaders. And I want you to note my very conscious use of the word we and us here. And that's because whether or not you are formally in a position of leadership currently, we all can become leaders in our current roles, and the LEAD Institute is all about helping us build the skills and knowledge needed to be an adult education leader. It doesn't matter what your current role is. It doesn't matter what your goals are for the future. The LEAD Institute can help you build the leadership skills needed to help your team and the individuals impacted by your work. So let's talk more specifically about the LEAD Institute. AIR, in partnership with the National Association of State Directors of Adult Education, or NASDAE, created the LEAD Institute in order to offer a high-quality and evidence-based leadership training for veteran, new, and aspiring adult education leaders. And the goal of the LEAD Institute is to develop those dynamic, proactive leaders for the 21st century adult education system. As I mentioned, the LEAD Institute was developed in collaboration with NASDAE, and the training includes videos and content from more than a dozen recognized adult education leaders and practitioners who provide their own expertise and stories, as well as examples from their practice and deep knowledge on key topics. What you see on the screen is just a sample of adult education leaders who the LEAD participants will learn from throughout the training. On this slide, you can see those who have participated in the LEAD Institute in the past. Since January 2021, 10 states have completed the training, and one is currently participating in the Institute. That's Arizona. And Marilyn is actually here from Arizona to talk to us about the impact of the LEAD Institute in Arizona at the later half of our webinar today. We also recently hosted a cohort called the LEAD Challenge, which was specifically for individuals working at the state office level for adult education programs. And in that cohort, we had staff from Ohio, Arizona, Nevada, California, Utah, and Missouri. You'll get to hear from two of those participants later today, but first I want to share a testimonial from a participant in the LEAD Challenge cohort, which wrapped up in December. So this testimonial that you see on the screen is from Megan Wadley, Coordinator of Adult Education and Literacy in Missouri. And Megan was kind enough to share her thoughts on her participation in the LEAD Challenge. I'm going to read it to you because I know it's a lot of text on the screen. So Megan said, "Participating in the LEAD Challenge was a unique opportunity to step away from distractions and focus my attention on a significant issue facing the Missouri adult education system, while reflecting on how my leadership style could contribute to positive outcomes. The content provided was specific to adult education, which is rare in professional development opportunities, and also helped me reflect on my strengths and possibilities as a leader implementing change. LEAD pushed me to evaluate potential roadblocks in executing a statewide initiative, from gaps in data to my own growth as a leader. We often don't take the time we should to map out our own contribution to a project. LEAD provided the resources to narrow in on both the problem I'm trying to solve and the skills I already possess that will help me reach the finish line. The value of peer conversations cannot be overstated. The insights and support I received from other adult education professionals from around the country were truly invaluable. I am always grateful for the wisdom I gained from colleagues. It was an honor to be a part of the LEAD Challenge, and I recommend adult education professionals invest their time if given the opportunity. Excuse me while I mute so that I can cough. I have a little bit of a cold today. My apologies. I'm sure many of you are feeling the effects of this time of year and the weather and all the illnesses that are going around. I'm glad we're in this virtual environment, so I can't share my germs with you. So although Megan couldn't join us today, I want to thank her for sharing her reflections on her participation in the LEAD Challenge. And later in this presentation, you'll get to hear from two more LEAD Challenge participants about their own experiences. I appreciate Megan sharing her reflections as to the value and impact of her participation in LEAD and how it helped her hone her own skills and use that learning and focus on a project that was valuable for her state and her team. So now that you've heard from one LEAD Challenge participant, let's look more specifically at what the content of the LEAD Institute includes. LEAD is focused on developing leadership skills across the four key domains that you see on the screen in front of you. So transformational leadership, learner-centered leaders, data and research-based decision-making, and workforce alignment. I'm going to describe each of them briefly. So first, transformational organizational leadership. Transformational leadership is a research-based theory of leadership where a leader works with teams to identify needed change, creates a vision to guide the change through inspiration, and executes the change in tandem with committed members of a group. Transformational leaders inspire people to achieve unexpected or remarkable organizational results. Learner-centered leadership, the second focus of the LEAD training, puts the student and his or her success at the center of system and organizational decision-making. Learner-centered leaders looking at what is effective at the program and classroom level and consider how to design and lead organizations that help students reach their academic and career goals. The third in green is data and research based decision making, and that's a key leadership skill in the 21st century. We know that adult education leaders need to foster a culture of evidence, leveraging data for strategic direction and continuous improvement. And the fourth is workforce alignment, and this, as we all know, is what WIOA is all about. It's a focus on building career pathways and workforce partnerships so that our students have opportunities for career advancement. So the four areas that I described on the previous slide are very broad. So on this slide and the next, you can see more of the specifics of what the training objectives are for this LEAD Institute. I'm not going to read each of them to you now, but I do want to highlight a couple for you. So as a result of participating in the training, adult educators will be able to, that first one, develop greater self awareness and enhance their transformational leadership skills so they can develop the capabilities of others and cultivate high performing teams. The second, they'll be able to better understand adult education roles and responsibilities related to WIOA and the workforce system. Number five, they'll focus on effectively selecting, onboarding, developing, and managing staff. And six, they will cultivate best practices for student recruitment, intake, and retention. And I'm going to pause for a moment to give you a chance to read the other objectives to yourself now. Okay, and in addition to these six, there are a few more. The LEAD Institute is a very thorough training. So on this slide, you'll see a few additional objectives. And again, I'm just going to highlight a couple of them for you. So number 7 says use data for program management and improvement, for example, student achievement. And number 9, identify and develop mutually beneficial organizational, business, and community partnerships. So again, I want to pause for a moment and let you read the others that are on the screen in front of you. So there are a lot of objectives that I just shared with you, and I think you can see how that speaks to the richness and depth of the training, as well as the connection to those four domains that I reviewed previously. So now that we've covered the LEAD Institute's focus, let's talk about how the training works. And I'm going to outline key aspects of our approach, format, and curriculum for you. The LEAD training curriculum was developed collaboratively with NASDAE leadership, AIR staff, and as I mentioned before, over a dozen experienced adult education experts. It uses a community of practice framework or a COP framework. COPs bring together individuals with shared passions to collaboratively learn, improve, and grow through regular interaction. Each LEAD Institute cohort comprises of both state and program level adult education leaders who engage in collaborative learning throughout the training. As you heard from Megan's testimony earlier, the collaborative piece is one of the most important pieces of the LEAD Institute, that opportunity to connect with others in your state, or in the case of the LEAD Challenge, with others across the nation. The training is designed to be highly interactive, job relevant, and grounded in adult learning theory. It draws on participants' collective expertise to solve shared challenges through job embedded activities, and they're tied to real workplace issues. Participants assess, learn, implement, and reflect on new skills individually and also with their cohort. So, as part of this process, participants build leadership skills on system, organizational, program, and individual levels. They evaluate their personal leadership styles, identify areas for growth, and adopt practices linked to effective transformational leadership. And finally, a key component of the project is the Leadership in Action Plan, where each individual develops a program improvement plan tailored to the individual's context, but within the framework of the state's specific goals. I'll provide more details about the Leadership in Action plan later, but I just wanted you to see how it's connected to the training approach and that it's the implementation focus of the training. So I know we are in a virtual format, but I still would like to hear from you if possible. When you think about leadership training and the value of such training, how does it contribute to success? And I want you to think about how it contributes to both personal growth, but also how it contributes to the success of teams and organizations that those adult educators are a part of. So take a moment to reflect on the value of leadership training for adult educators. And if you're willing, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts in the chat as well. So again, the question is, how does leadership training contribute to both the personal growth of leaders as well as the overall success and development of the teams or organizations they are a part of? So again, in the chat, go ahead and answer that question. And I will pause while you answer. And if you are unable to answer in the app, that is okay. Reflecting individually is also very much welcome here. If you are tuning in a little late, we are reflecting on the importance of leadership training and how it contributes to the personal growth of an individual as well as to the teams and organizations that they're a part of. I think that and I see one answer coming through in the chat so far. Thank you so much to those of you who are adding. As you are thinking about it, I also want to add a reflection about leadership training. We often talk about how in adult education, leaders find themselves in their roles, as it's not always a place where we enter a role and have formal opportunities for growth. And so, therefore, the individuals who find themselves in leadership roles have not always had the training that would support their skills to grow and flourish as a leader. And so, when we think about personal development and this opportunity to develop your own leadership skills and how that affects the organization and our learners as a whole, we can very clearly see how taking the time to do self reflection, thinking about our strengths and our areas for growth, can really impact an organization. Because as we grow as leaders and our own leadership strengthens, and we find ways to lean into that role, we positively impact those around us. And that's the whole vision of transformational leadership, that we bring others along with us, that as our vision grows, that as our skills grow as individuals, we can help support others around us to embrace their own leadership roles. And therefore, we create this kind of expanding impact of our own leadership. So I'm going to take a moment just to call out a couple of the things that have come through in the chat so far. One person shared that whatever our role is, when we engage the skills and characteristics from the word cloud that you all made earlier, it supports an amazing collective effort and a whole picture. Yes, that really speaks to what I was just saying about how when we grow as leaders, we're bringing hopefully others along with us. And so our reach extends even further than us as individuals. Our personal growth contributes to others' personal growth as well, and therefore the organization and our learners. Another person adds, you become more self-aware of who you are. Professionally, you use the information to help others understand the characteristics needed to do their jobs. Yes, absolutely. And another individual adds, developing strong leaders in adult education supports a stronger system as a whole, including being better able to support the students we serve. Yes, student-centered leadership, another focus of the LEAD Institute. making sure that we're always keeping students at the center of our decision making and that we use that evidence and what we know of best practices to make decisions that positively impact our learners, our organization, and our teams as a whole. I really appreciate those of you who have shared thus far. That chat continues to remain open. So, as you're reflecting about how leadership can positively impact both the individual and the teams or organizations that they serve, I would love to hear more of your thoughts in the chat as we go. Okay, so we've looked at the overarching goal of the Institute. We looked at those objectives and the approach. We're going to talk briefly about some of the details and the structure of the training. So, as I mentioned, this is designed to be a cohort training, and the current version of the training is approximately 50 hours long. We work with each state to figure out a timeline that works best for the state and their participants, but the 50 hours can be spread out. Through a period of up to 9 months. Most cohorts at this point have leaned toward 6 or 7 months, but it can be extended out to 9 months as well. The training is available to both single or multi-state cohorts. We've had one multi-state cohort so far, and the state directors, again, determined what method would be best for their state. As I mentioned, the training is designed for new or aspiring leaders, as well as veteran leaders and participants that come from a variety of roles. I really want to emphasize here that leadership is not a title. It's a role that we can all step into, regardless of what our formal title is. So, we work with each state to talk about their goals for the training and who they might wish to outreach to about the opportunity. For example, some states who've participated thus far have looked at it as an opportunity to work on leadership development for individuals who are not yet in those formal leadership type roles. And they're thinking about the future and the future of the field in their state. Others have invited participants to apply to indicate why they want to participate and what value they might find through participation in the training. The training can also be offered in a flexible format. We offer it fully virtually, or we can offer a hybrid training where participants come together for the longer training sessions. Again, you can see that there's 50 hours of learning and it's spread across shorter webinars, interactive half-day sessions, independent study sessions, which are housed in Moodle. And the Moodle is also where we have that virtual community of practice. So that creates a space for ongoing dialogue and engagement with participants and facilitators. And then, as I mentioned before, that capstone, the leadership and action plan, we actually present that in the final session. But whether it's offered virtually or in a hybrid format, we have two facilitators assigned to each cohort. There's a LEAD Institute project staff and an adult education practitioner leader from the field. These two facilitators work together to ensure continuity of learning and ongoing support, and they deliver the training, they facilitate that virtual community of practice, and they're available throughout the Institute to support learning. Since that leadership and action plan, or the LIA plan, is so central to the work that participants do in LEAD, I want to spend a minute on the leadership and action capstone project. So, at the heart of learning is the LIA plan, and it's a comprehensive system or improvement project plan, and the participants develop it over the course of this training. State leadership ultimately determines the specific focus and the big goal for the cohort improvement projects, and then each participant will complete a comprehensive system or program improvement plan that meets those state goals, but is still specific to their context and their role in the adult education system. The LEAD training is designed to complement the planning process, and it's designed to help participants practice as well as further develop their ideas and fundamental leadership skills throughout the training. The LIA plan template, which is what you see on the screen in front of you, is a tool that participants use to think through their comprehensive plan. The template is intended to be a living document. It's not a one and done type of project, and the participants revisit it and use it as they work on leading change, and they ultimately prepare their presentation for the final training session. As such, each LIA plan is aligned with that state leadership vision and goal that I mentioned earlier. It addresses a current program or organizational need or challenge. So, again, it's something that's specific to the context of each individual participant. It addresses the needs of learners. We're holding learners and what is best for them, what are their needs at the center of everything that we do. It's something that requires being done with others at the organization and within cross agency partnerships. And this is really related to the next one that you see on the screen, that it establishes stretch goals for the agency team. In other words, it's a project that requires leadership rather than being something that a person could do on their own. It requires participants to think about how they can be a leader in their current roles within their specific context and lead a team to accomplish a project that is important to them, to their learners, their organization, and their state. And then finally, of course, as with any good plan, it's measurable. So let me share an example of what this looks like, just very big picture. Let's say maybe a state chooses that for their lead institute focus, the goal of scaling and improving IET models statewide. A participant who is a program director in the cohort might choose to develop a plan for IET design and implementation at their organization, and a state office adult education participant, so someone who works at the state office, they might focus on designing professional development opportunities for IET, or they might focus on improving IET data collection process for the state. So in this way, the capstone project, this LIA plan project, achieves a twofold goal. The first is system-wide improvement as multiple leaders in the same state work towards a shared overarching goal. And the second is program improvement and practitioner skill development through the completion of a specific job that's relevant to their role and their capstone project. Again, let me mute while I cough. My apologies for the cold today. Okay, so that is the leadership in action plan. I mentioned earlier that I have had the opportunity to facilitate several of the LEAD Institute cohorts. And this, I have to say, is one of my favorite parts of the LEAD Institute, getting to watch the development of these plans throughout the cohort, and then all of the practitioners coming together at the end to share their ideas for this plan. It's so invigorating, it's so innovative and exciting to hear what all of these practitioners are doing to improve adult education within their context. It's a really meaningful opportunity, and I always enjoy participating in it. So I hope that if you join the LEAD Institute, you will also see the same value in the LIA plan project. Okay, again, I'd like to hear from you. You've heard a lot about the content and the topics of the LEAD Institute. They are not all covered on the screen in front of you, but these are some of the topics that are covered in the LEAD Institute. I'm curious which ones would be of most interest to you. So if you go back to the Whova app again and navigate to poll number 3, you can select which topics interest you the most. And just for the sake of readability, I will list these topics out for you. So the first is transformational leadership and leading change. The second is using data for program management and improvement. The third is developing your leadership style, skills, and behavior. The fourth is ethics and professionalism in adult education leadership. We have leveraging partnerships for success, WIOA cross-system alignment, community and business partnerships, developing workforce preparation and career pathway systems, and finally, find, keep, and develop effective adult educators. I want to restate that this is not a comprehensive list of everything that is covered in the LEAD Institute, but it is some of the topics, and I'd love to hear which ones are of interest to you. So go ahead and navigate to the poll. If you're having any issues accessing the poll, as always, you are welcome to add your ideas in the chat as well, or if there's something else you would be interested in seeing as a topic of the LEAD Institute. And I'm going to go ahead and see if I can see the results of these polls. It looks like so far the majority of you are interested in finding, keeping, and developing effective adult educators. So important. We know that there can be very high turnover in adult education. And so finding strategies to help keep those adult educators who are really invested in our programs and our learners, that's so important for the success of the program and the learners. You're also really interested in transformational leadership and leading change. That's what the LEAD Institute is all about, and developing your leadership style, skills, and behaviors. This is wonderful. But there are some of you who are interested in all of these topics as well. I'm going to share the poll results. I hope that doesn't stop you from being able to add your own ideas, but hopefully that will pop up for you. Okay. All right, you've heard a lot from me today about the purpose of the LEAD Institute, the objectives, and the structure. But now let's hear from individuals who have participated in the LEAD Institute, specifically the LEAD Challenge, which, as I mentioned earlier, was a unique training opportunity for state staff from across the country. So we are going to hear from them directly how this leadership training impacted them as individuals and also as their state and their states. So I'd like to welcome Marilyn Mumwa Anderson and Megan Arrington to this LEAD presentation. I'm going to ask Marilyn and then Megan to introduce themselves, and then I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I can ask more specific questions about their experiences in the LEAD Institute. But I'm going to start by having Marilyn go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Hannah, for having me here today. My name is Marilyn Muma Anderson, and I'm the Director of Teaching and Learning with Adult Education Services at the Arizona Department of Education. And I've had the opportunity to participate in the LEAD as a participant and state staff. And now we're currently holding a cohort for our adult education administrators. So thank you, Hannah.
Thank you so much, Marilyn. And Megan, go ahead.
Thank you, Hannah. I am Megan Arrington. I work for the Ohio Department of Higher Education. I participated with the LEAD Challenge cohort that just ended in December. It was myself and two other colleagues that were part of the cohort. So our state director and then a senior program manager and myself. Prior to that, I worked at a local program in an ESL classroom, and I did data in the afternoon. So I have a lot of experience both in the field as well as in the state. And so going through the LEAD challenge was extremely exciting and beneficial for us as a team.
Wonderful. So now I'm going to stop sharing so that the participants are better able to see both of you. And I'm going to ask you some questions related to your experiences and the impact of the training. So Megan, I have a two-part question for you to start. The question is, one, what was your rationale for participating in the LEAD Institute? And second, what were you hoping to gain from it? And how did LEAD meet your goals and expectations? So really, I guess that's a three-part question, but go ahead, Megan.
Yeah, so when we heard about the LEAD Challenge cohort, we were very excited about the idea about it being designed specifically for state staff. Our role as state staff is really unique and it comes with its own challenges. So the opportunity to receive some high quality, in-depth training tailored to our specific responsibilities and mission was extremely exciting to us. So we were eager to jump in, to learn from peers from other states. Additionally, all three of us had participated in professional development trainings from AIR, and we were confident that the content would be excellent. Personally, myself, I was looking forward to the leadership growth component, and I can say that LEAD met all of those expectations. So after the 6 months of training, covering all the relevant content, we created the LIA plan and did the capstone project. I grew quite a bit as a leader, learn a lot from other states, and our own team grew a lot as well, and that was extremely beneficial.
Thank you for sharing that, Megan. So, Marilyn, also a two-part question for you. What was the impact of the LEAD training on you as a participant? And then, as Marilyn mentioned in her introduction, Arizona previously participated in a cohort, and they also have a cohort ongoing right now. So what has been the impact of the LEAD training in your state?
Well, I'll start with how it's impacted me as a participant. I was at the time relatively new into my role as a director at the agency, and then at that time that I had participated, and I really used this opportunity with LEAD to help develop my leadership skills while supporting collaboration and innovation with my new team. And that came largely through the development of our leadership and action plan, where we worked actually together in the development, with each person kind of taking ownership to a component of our leadership and action plan. As a state, we have a history both in the past, but also currently. We really want to acknowledge that in adult education, most of our leaders come in sideways. And we believe that developing strong leaders is critical to the success of adult education in Arizona. Within LEAD, we wanted to provide some flexibility for our programs to tackle issues relevant to their programs and regions, while also giving them the space to collaborate and work together. So we're currently still in the process of this right now, but I've really enjoyed reading our program directors' LIA plans and their innovative approaches to challenges in the state. In addition to the individual leadership, I really expect to see more cross-program and statewide collaboration that's coming out of this work with LEAD.
Thank you so much, Marilyn. Yeah, that entering sideways is such an important fact about being in adult education. And that really speaks to the point I made earlier too about how, as in adult education, as in many careers, but in adult education, we know that people often find themselves in leadership roles. And so this is a great opportunity to build those skills either once you're there or in preparation for what could be coming as well. So thank you for highlighting that for us. Marilyn, I do have a follow-up question for you. So again, you first participated in the LEAD Challenge, and then you offered a cohort for your state, and Arizona previously hosted that cohort. What was your rationale for having your state participate in the LEAD Institute? And how has and or how did LEAD meet your goals and expectations?
Well, first, as as um, as state leaders, we were at the time that we had the opportunity to participate in the challenge, we were going through like a large transition at the agency. We had a new state director at the same time that our agency had new leadership, and we also did some restructuring. So it just seemed like a perfect time to participate in LEAD as state staff, to work together and develop our leadership skills as we work through that transition period. And we had both veterans participate and new practitioners to the field who were working at the agency. Now with our administrators, it was kind of in a similar period where it's the first year of our 4-year grant. And so we wanted to give the opportunity for administrators, for the same reason that we took advantage of the opportunity to participate in state staff, to grow their leadership skills. And so far it's really met my personal expectations, but I said we're kind of in the thick of it with our administrators, but I can already see really great innovative ideas and collaboration that I think is going to be imperative as we move forward as a state.
Yeah, that cohort model is very central to the LEAD Institute, and so in the LEAD Challenge, in the case of that, it helped build that some of those team elements for you and your team. I think Megan, you had mentioned, and also reaching across to different states, and then Marilyn within your current cohort, giving people to connect cross agency as well. It's so important. And that is what being a leader is, right? Like finding those opportunities to connect both within your program as well as outside of your program. And that includes other adult education agencies, but it also includes our partners as well. Thank you, Marilyn.
And Hannah, if I could add real quickly too,
Yeah.
there's rarely an opportunity to spend time developing those leadership skills that directly relates to adult education. And so I wanted to also point that out, that has been really successful, is that kind of connection. It's not just the state leadership skills, but it's in specific connection to adult education, which is more rare to find.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for highlighting that. Okay, so Megan, let's talk specifically about content and activities of the LEAD Institute. What LEAD content or activities were most useful for you as a participant? And then you can frame that from your state LEAD perspective or a different perspective, and why.
Yeah, so for my role at the state, I oversee data and NRS reporting. So there was a session that was titled The Use of Data Management and Improvement. So that session was particularly interesting to me, and I learned a lot from it. Additionally, there was a lot of leadership-focused pieces. So there are different sessions where it brought in the leadership pieces that I found extremely beneficial. There was one activity where we did a multi-factor leadership questionnaire, and then we got quite a comprehensive printout about our leadership styles. And then we came to the session with that piece, and I found that one really valuable. We were able to reflect on that report, and then we even had some reflection time in breakout rooms where we were able to come up with a slogan or a short statement that captured our vision and purpose as leaders. So having that time to reflect on what drives my leadership was especially meaningful. I found that one extremely beneficial.
Yeah, the MLQ, the multi-factor leadership questionnaire. Yes, it's an opportunity for participants to, as Megan said, uncover what are some of their strengths as leaders, as well as opportunities to focus for growth in leadership. And it can be really helpful to uncover or at least make them more visible, some of those things. And it's both the strengths as well as the opportunities for growth. Sometimes we don't realize what our own strengths are and how we can really lean into those things as leaders to benefit our teams and our organization. So it helps us do both of those things. So Megan, let's focus specifically on that LIA plan now. What was the value of the LIA or the Leadership in Action Plan? Again, both for you as a participant, but then also for your state as a result of the efforts that you put into your leadership and action plan.
Yes, so our leadership and action plan was actually about restructuring as well. So I find it interesting that Maryland, they were kind of going through a restructure. We were as well. We were changing how we were dividing our workload as a state team. So instead of program managers being assigned to specific programs or regions, we decided to move and transition where each person would have an area of focus. So for example, I'm over data, we had somebody over ESOL, somebody specifically assigned to grants management, et cetera. So working on our LIA plan was really perfect timing for us as we were going through this, because we were able to kind of hash out and streamline responsibilities, improve efficiencies, define roles better. We also, as we worked through it, we had some expected challenges, but then there were some unexpected challenges that we're able to work through as we hashed this out over the 6-month period of time. And I think it's been alluded from Megan as well as Marilyn, that having that time specifically designated to do that was invaluable, because we are so busy as state staff and as adult educators that having that forced amount of time where we have to sit down, reflect, and think about it ended up being a really, really positive thing for our team.
It's definitely an intensive training, Megan. It's, as I mentioned, it's 50 hours over a 6 to 9 month period of time. And I think that one of the things we hear from participants is this piece of it. Like, it is simultaneously a lot of time, but if you can dedicate the time to that, what you're getting out of it is so important and meaningful. And we don't always have those opportunities to do those things. So the great thing about the LEAD Institute is that there are these synchronous trainings where we get to come together, have these conversations, save the time in our calendars. But then the things that happen in Moodle, you get to do at your own pace. So we know that state staff are very busy. We know that adult educators wear many hats and are very busy, and some of them have multiple jobs. And the LEAD Institute allows people to kind of work at their own pace in those asynchronous pieces of the Institute, but then come together for those focused conversations and really use that time together in breakout rooms or together in a face-to-face setting to talk about the different things that they're learning and how it applies to their specific context. Thank you, Megan. Marilyn, how about for you? What was the value of the leadership and action plan, again, both for you as a participant and then with your perspective of Arizona participating in a cohort?
So the LIA plan, I think, really allows you to look at the complexities of the adult education system in connection with data, which I think is really important at a program level, but also as a state. And really, as Megan said, take the time to plan out meaningful actions to help support the work that you do. I alluded earlier, like we approached the LIA plan a little bit different. As a state, we did it in state teams. I worked with my state team, which is the teaching and learning team, to outline a state mentorship program. Which is something we're currently in development. We're actually in that first phase of our LI plan development. But the goal really is for us to support teacher retention of highly qualified teachers across the state, which is not an easy task. So it became a really large project. Within the plan, each of our members of the team is taking on a component to help build their own leadership skills. And so me being part of that and working together has been really invaluable as we develop our team relationship. Our focus for our LI plan was really determined based on responses from our programs, from being able to attract and retain quality teachers. As Hannah mentioned, it's one of the sections in specific. But we also realized pretty early on as we were developing our LI plan that our current data system in Arizona just really didn't give us a quick way to extract the data that we really needed. So the first part of our plan really was to pull and organize that data to better inform our work. And that has really been eye-opening as we've kind of delved into of what that looked like and providing kind of more tangible information for our state. So I'm excited to when I'm going to have the opportunity to share that with on a bigger level. At a state working with our administrators, I said we're kind of in the process and they're just starting to refine their plans. Um, so we haven't quite seen the impact, but I expect many positive changes. There seems to be a lot of plans focused particularly on IET development. So stay tuned for Arizona because I think some exciting things are going to happen.
Thank you, Marilyn. Yeah, I think we're all excited to hear about your efforts related to your leadership and action plan. As Marilyn mentioned, that focus on find, keep, and develop adult educators, even the group who is in attendance today listening, a large majority of them indicated that that was a topic that was important to them. So we can see how that is valuable. And Marilyn, I think everyone here would love to hear the outcomes of your work. So we're excited for COABE for next year when we get to hear some of the results of your efforts, Marilyn, as well as what's happening in the state. I mentioned earlier today in the presentation that as a facilitator for some of the LEAD cohorts, hearing the results of those leadership and action plans in the final presentation is always my favorite part of the LEAD Institute. So I'm very excited for you to see what comes out of the LEAD Arizona participants' efforts. And it will be impactful for the state. So that's a really exciting place to be. All right, so then just a general question to kind of help wrap us up here for both of you, the same question. What was your overall experience with the LEAD Institute? Is there anything else that you want other states or those on the call to know? It's just a general question. Marilyn, we'll start with you, and then Megan, you can go second.
Hannah, overall, I had a really positive experience with LEAD. Yes, it's pretty intensive, but at the same time, it's very comprehensive, particularly about the adult education system, and it really helps support development of those leadership skills. I would particularly recommend this training in developing newer adult education leaders. As I mentioned earlier, we kind of know everyone comes in sideways, and there's so much to know. I also, it worked out really well for us to do it in a period of transition where you may want to spark innovation or collaborative thought. And so both of those I would really recommend if you're interested in going with LEAD.
Thanks, Marilyn. Megan, how about you?
Yeah, I want to echo what Marilyn said. I also had a very positive experience, and I think my colleagues would say the same. It was an extremely rare experience to get professional development tailored to our roles. So just having that was so valuable. And then the time commitment and the dedication, or I'm sorry, while the time commitment was big, the dedicated time to focus, like I said, on our LA plan was invaluable. And we really were able to refine our vision as a team. I cannot also say enough about how amazing AR does, just planning and facilitating and making everything expectations so clear, as well as providing flexibility in the midst of all of that. Hannah did an amazing job, as well as Cheryl, with the whole project. So I just want to just give a shout out to AIR, give a shout out to LEAD. If you're thinking about doing it, I highly, highly suggest doing it. It was an extremely meaningful professional development time for our team.
Thank you so much, Megan. It's so wonderful to hear those things. We're just glad that we can provide a training that is impactful for you and for your states and for your learners. That's the most important part of all of this. I'm going to go ahead and reshare my screen. And I want to just give another huge thank you to Marilyn and Megan for sharing their experiences with us, for sharing their reflections today. It was such a pleasure to get to work with them and to get to know them throughout the LEAD Challenge. And I was so honored that they were willing to share their thoughts and their time with us today in this particular presentation. So I hope that this short presentation has given you a taste of what LEAD is all about and that we've piqued your interest. Again, huge thank you to Marilyn and Megan, as well as the other Megan who shared their testimony at the start of the presentation today. I really appreciate you sharing your experiences about the LEAD Challenge and the LEAD Institute. There is a flyer for the LEAD Institute in the conference app. You should be able to find it in this same session. I think if you just scroll down in the app view, it should be there for you. My contact information is on there, as well as Pat Tyler of NASDAE. Please feel free to reach out to either of us if you have any questions or would like to talk about what the LEAD Institute is or how it can benefit you and individuals in your program and state. My email will also be provided on the next slide. I hope everyone has an enjoyable rest of your CoWave conference, that you enjoy the energy and the learning that is happening, as well as this opportunity to network and meet all of these wonderful adult educators from around the country. As promised, here is my email address, and thank you to everyone for joining today.